Hi, it's Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, with some real-life manufacturing stuff for you tonight. Let's go through an old but still made Starrett tool. A super quick way to set up a spin jig to get it close. Then you can kind of tap it into where you really need it, but we'll go into that. And some video from the shop floor. So let's get started with this. Well, what do we have here? That's an old-looking piece, and I love this old vintage stuff, you know, with that kind of interesting finish they put on that oil-based finish, okay? And this is a really old piece. This was in my dad's toolbox. So let's turn it around. Well, we can see that it's a Starrett number 299 clamp. Maybe you're getting closer. Well, here's what you use it for. You can put almost any two scales together with this thing and turn your two 24s into a 48. In this example, I've got just a thin 6-inch scale hooked to a 18-inch mincetorial scale, whatever you want to do. Pretty cool piece of equipment, and I still use it once in a while, but if you're really anxious to run out there and get one, they're $95. So I'm sure you can find one on eBay for cheaper than that, okay? So a little history there. Back in the day, that was state-of-the-art, and as I always say, I'm very impressed that Starrett still makes this stuff, and you can tell by the style of the text there that that's old world stuff. I'm going to guess the one I have is probably from the 40s or 50s. Okay, so let's move forward to today's lesson, and the whirly jig or the spin fixture. It's called a rapid setup. Okay, so let's look at this. So it's a jig, not a gig. I remember somebody told me it was a whirly gig. That's not the way it works. It's a jig, okay? And a GIF is not a GIF, okay? So gig and jig, GIF and GIF. Get these straight. Don't be a psycho, okay? Get them right. So with that earth-shattering information, there it is. There's a whirly jig. As you can see, I've got it clamped down to my surface plate. It makes it much easier to indicate the pin end if this thing the whole fixture isn't moving around, okay? So this particular one is an Imperial Newbold from Meadville. I'm going to guess this one is probably from the 80s. Now, we don't do a lot of grinding in our shop, so this is eminently usable. It's not going to get you to millionths, but it still does the job, and it's a nice fixture. So the deal is here, usually the distance from the surface plate to the center of the V-block to the pin is usually 3 inches. And usually, I keep saying usually, but they used to stamp that on the actual whirly jig, 3 inches, 3.0000. Well, I assumed that was what this one was, and as you'll see in the lesson, it wasn't quite there. And I even went below, and there's just a stamp there. It just says 842 down here. I don't know if that's a serial number or whatever it is, but that's the way that looks. So let's look at a video of me setting this up to get this pin really close, really fast, then tap it in afterwards to get the best setup and get it, you know, dialed in within a half thousandth or so. I'll edit this out, but we're still recording. All right, so we've got this, and it needs to be centered up. So this is, if somebody ground a different size pin, right? So we gotta center this up. Now there's a quick way to get it very close, and I'll show you what we did here. If we come over here, this is set to 3 inches of 129 thousandths. I've discovered that the center line of this spin fixture or whirly jig is 3 inches and 4 thousandths, plus half of a 1/4 inch pin gets us to that number. So all I really need to do to get this thing close is simply push this up against that after I've preset that number. Gently snug it up. And then double check it. This isn't the final setting. It should be close. Couple thousandths. Now let me tighten them both, snug them both up, and you might even see a difference. Because this side I never touched. Yeah, so now we're very close, of course, to get our final setting. We're just going to give this a tap. So we're 0, 0, and then the sides are a little off, and those are a little tougher to get because there was rails there. So sometimes that's the best I can do on this whirly jig, because it's 100 years old, and I think the bearings are slightly worn out. So the epilogue of that first lesson is this. I just wanted to show you how to quickly get a whirly jig set up fairly close. And I didn't want to bore you with the details of tapping it all in. But off camera, I tested the formula, and I put a 1/2-inch dowel pin in, took the 3 inches and added 3 inches and 4/1000ths, and added a 1/4 inch to it for this 1/2-inch pin. And you'll see I am not a hack, and I can get this stuff in very close. The reality is that, again, this is an old fixture, probably 30 years old. So I got it within 3/10, and I hope that proves my point. All right, so in this section of today's lesson, we're going to go into a little bit of a shop floor video. I'm not sure if you guys saw this. I posted this on Facebook and Instagram this week. About 25 of these little guys I have to make out of aluminum, okay? And you can see they're fairly small. This is how it starts, with a block of aluminum, and this is what I have to make them into, okay? So this is what it looks like after the first op, and I put the green marker paint on there just so you guys could kind of see what we're doing here, okay? You got a stop set there below the cut, all right? And that's the first op. Now where it gets interesting, okay? The second op. Well, I guess I just took that picture of them lined up on my surface plate. Aluminum parts just always look the best. Okay, that's right after the first operation. So let's go to operation number 2, okay? And interesting. You can see I've got a stop set up, and you can't see it on this movable jaw. I've got an 1 5/8 parallel, and because there's a step in the part, I'm actually using one of my adjustable parallels, my Starrett adjustable parallels, which I usually don't use on a milling machine. I usually use them for inspection, but I needed a 1 5/08 parallel to make up the step on the bottom. So I set that at 1 5/08, and I don't pound on this. I just set it in, push it in, hold it down while I tighten it, and because if I start pounding on it or hitting this with a hammer, it's going to collapse that parallel. Works every time, okay? But that's what it looks like when it's done. So what I'm going to do now is show you a video of watching that thing machine. And I don't talk during the video. It's loud enough in the shop. But the secret to dusting this, I think there's about 150,000 on the top. I take it very light cuts, because I, as you can see in the end, am not holding on to much, and I can't tighten it too much or collapse this. This is 98 thousandths. This final rib here, this little gusset in the middle, is very thin, so I can just snug the vise up. So when you just snug a vise up, you take light cuts, and the video will show that. And I did want to show you, I've been dealing with this for years. Finally decided to do something about it. See this movable jaw right here, and this is the fixed jaw. This jaw is 8 thousandths taller than this one. And a lot of setups I do come right down to within a few thousandths of the jaw. Well, it burns me once in a while. And a few of you have pointed that out. So when I was done, I did reset it up. And I just left the Dicom on there to show you the blend. I took a few more tenths off there and got rid of the Dicom. But they're exact now. Shouldn't happen again, at least until tomorrow. Okay? And let's watch the video. And I'm going to add a little bonus lesson for you just because I was going through my camera and happened to see this. So let's do this one. I get a lot of plates that come my way. And what I need to do is face off this plate, put a big O-ring groove in it, drill some holes. But I want to go all the way around it and establish the finished dimensions, all right? And I am going to come dangerously close to these vice jaws. And what I really needed, 1 3/4 parallels were just not quite high enough. What I really needed was 780, 1 inch 780 thousandths parallels. Yeah, I could make them. And here's a close-up view. You can see how much I'm hanging on to this thing by, right? About 50 thousandths. So here's a very simple solution to make up a set of parallels when you're in a hurry. I just used two 780 thousandths diameter gauge pins. Now, before anybody freaks out, how dare you use gauge pins as parallels? I don't beat down on these things. They're rock hard. I set the piece down. I tighten the vise. No harm, no foul. Okay, and it's a really quick way. It gets me through a lot of issues when I've got to have weird sized parallels. Because if I stopped every day to make weird sized parallels, I'd be making weird sized parallels for a living. Okay, so this is a solution I came up with in the last year or so, and it really saves a lot of time if your shop has access to a lot of gauge pins, which we do. And again, the secret is, we're not using these to beat down parts or to ream out holes by pounding them through, but just setting this plate on top of them isn't going to hurt a thing. So that's your bonus lesson, and wait, there's more. And now, just in time for Thanksgiving. Well, I had some extra time today. And about a month ago, I was invited to, of all things, a Penn State tailgate party here in Erie. And I ran into a fellow I haven't seen in years, and he owns a tool and die shop here in Erie called Eagle Precision Tool. And he said, stop by sometime. Well, I miss being in a tool room. I love my job I have now, but there's something about being in a tool room. And we had a great tour. And I'm going to let him, he's going to let me film in there, no doubt. Wait until you see this stuff, man. This is like precision. You can tell I'm excited. Wait till you see a tour through this place. Well, anyways, this shop is this big road in the middle is Route 20 in Erie. That's a U.S. Route 20. It's a busy road. And you drive down this long driveway, and there's two buildings. They don't even have a sign. I wasn't sure if it was in the right place, but as you can see, not too far away is Erie International Airport. Yes, we have an international airport. So I parked out front of this first building, walked in the back door, and nobody noticed me. So I walked in the front door of this building, and I recognized somebody I used to work with, of all things, and he took me to the other building, and I ran into the owner. And he gave me a great tour. But when we left the first building to go to the second building, he says, did the turkey get you? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, I got a Tom turkey running around here, and he's a piece of work. He chases us between the buildings. Well, at the end of our tour, which was really amazing, and I can't tell you how excited I am to go in there and film for you guys. You guys are going to lap this stuff up, all right? I said, hey, listen, I got a calendar for you. So I walked him out to my car, and he had been asking about the turkey, and there was the turkey right in front of my car, all right? So he was already strutting a little bit, so I leaned in the car, and he's right in front of my bumper to get the calendar, and I honked the horn at him just to see what he'd do. He didn't even flinch. He just gobbled back at me. Impressive, right? So Tim was kind of nervous. I said, here, just take the calendar. He ran back inside. I shut my door, and he walked right up to my window and stared me down until I left. And as I left, there he was. He was done with me. Now, turkeys don't have fingers, but if he had one, I know which one he'd be showing me. Wow. Okay? So that was just in time for Thanksgiving. Your turkey story today. Very aggressive animal, I will say. I wonder if he's been clawing that tree back here. And one more thing, just in time for Christmas. A couple months ago, I got my hands on this beautiful 1935 Starrett Tools catalog, and I restored 17 beautiful illustrations. And they're available as a 2020 wall calendar. And you're kind of running out of time here. It's today, as I'm recording this, it's November 15th. You got to give you guys a little time to get it shipped, me to pack it and get it there. And they make great gifts for yourself, great gift for your employees. You get that, and I'm throwing in this really beautiful Lufkin Tools skeleton view from 1947 catalog that I put together. all for the same price, under $20, including shipping. And just check it out at the toolandieguy.com. So I'm full of information tonight. Hope you enjoyed that, full of something. And hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next lesson.